Well, we'll do the this one here. All right, we are officially live on YouTube. Welcome into the Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. I'm your host, Mark Pereira, to talk about a 16-point Jazz win over the Blazers. They are now 2-0 in the NBA Cup. This is exciting times in Jazz time. We are undefeated in a tournament that has never existed before. So I gotta crack open this beer, get us all started here. I am drinking a brand new beer I've never had before. You're seeing this for the first time. This is from Avery Brewing Company up here in Colorado. I live in Denver, up in North Denver, and this is a brewery that is about 15 minutes north of me, up near Boulder. Avery Brewing Company. You've probably seen a lot of their stuff actually in grocery stores, even throughout the United States. But they're still a local brewery. They do some cool stuff. This is a 14% ABV Imperial Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout with vanilla, cacao nibs, and toasted coconut. We're going to have a great beer today. Love having you guys in here with me today. We're going to drink this beer. They have the foil wrapping on the bottle, so you know that it's legit. Normally, I'd have a glass and pour this one out, but I don't have any glasses here at my little station to talk about the game. So we're going to drink this straight out of the bottle because that's a win. That's a purple Jazz win. So I just cracked this open. Let's cheers to you guys who are tuning in to the Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. I'm Mark Pereira, and we're gonna sip this 14% beer pretty slowly here as we enjoy this conversation. Let's see how it goes. Boy, that's mighty heavy. That's pretty tasty. It's not my favorite bourbon barrel-aged stout I've ever had. And I wish I had more notes of the vanilla that it purports to have. But when you get up and past the 12% range, you start to get more like pretty heavy on the the bourbon barrel-aged aspect of it. It's tasty though. It's a great little beer that'll knock me on my ass in an hour. So let's get talking about the game first. Hey, got some more folks rolling in here as we get talking about the game today. I'm thrilled to be here and talking about today. So I'm wearing purple. If you're here on Spaces, I'm sorry you can't see me, but yeah, I'm wearing a purple hoodie. It's not a Jazz hoodie because I don't own any purple Jazz hoodies. All my stuff is from the teal blue era, right? Like, I mean, we always talk about purple is back, but I feel like the teal blue mountains is an underrated aspect of that whole color scheme. So I got teal blue, I got white, I got black. I got some good, the sunset gradient stuff, but I have no modern NBA purple stuff for me to sport. So this is just a purple hoodie and a classic 90s black and purple hat, because purple was back today. We saw the court today for the inaugural NBA Cup home game for the Jazz. And we saw the purple on the court, purple on the jerseys. It's a little much for me. But I will say that a lot of folks really seem to enjoy it. So I think it's a little aggressive for my taste. But I got to give a massive shout out though to the folks in the crowd today that were wearing the brightest yellow outfits that they could come up with. We had people in highlighter yellow hoodies. We have people sitting courtside in what I think are our ugliest uniforms, the white uniforms that really just have no character to them whatsoever, but definitely that highlighter yellow outline for the whole jersey. We had a bunch of people wearing highlighter yellow in the crowd today, and props to them on the day that the Jazz are trying to go the most all in on purple is when you decide to really bust out. Not just like the black is kind of our primary color that they're trying to shove down our throats, but the most aggressively like yellow and white outfits that you can come up with on Purple Day. So it is what it is. The court is what it was, right? I mean, there are definitely worse courts. I think if you hate the courts, one thing that was a benefit is that they do a good job of making it. What I was worried was that the purple court meshed with the purple jerseys would make for a very uncomfortable viewing experience. Frankly, whenever Boise State is playing in football, I don't mind the blue field of Boise State, but when they're wearing their blue jerseys, it's a really uncomfortable viewing experience, both live and on TV. I've had the fortune of being able to see both, but when you have both the blue field and blue jerseys, I was worried it can be an uncomfortable viewing experience, and I was worried about that for the NBA Cup for these city courts. I don't like them, but my main concern as just a fan who appreciates what I call athletic aesthetics is if you have the same color jersey if you have the same color jersey as the court is, then you can end up with a very uncomfortable viewing experience. But I do think that because the paint was the darker purple and the rest of the court was this newfound lighter purple that before this year really didn't exist in the Jazz color scheme, like this light mauve purple has never existed before. This isn't the classic 90s purple that you and I all love. But because that was the shade, you could really identify pretty clearly it's not like you have trouble seeing the players on the court, but there wasn't any odd confusion as to what was really happening out there. So I could leave it, but I think that apparently folks who are younger than me, I'm not that old, I'm only 32, but I think folks who are a lot younger than me really appreciate the garish colors and everything. On the other hand, teenagers tend to grow up and have tastes that make more sense, right? And you can't just... What sucks everybody into athletic aesthetics is classic, timeless looks, almost like a good suit. And if you fuck around too much with how you're trying to impress the 15-year-old demographic of the world, that's not going to stick. And that's how we ended up with highlighter yellow jerseys, and that's how we ended up with the NBA Cup courts you saw today. Well, had enough talk about that for athletic aesthetics. Welcome to the Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. I'm Mark Pereira. Let's get talking about the game we had today. The Portland Trailblazers sorely undermanned today. They're missing, not only were they a bad team to start with, but when you're missing Anthony Simons, who is pretty much like a sole offensive engine, they're missing Scoot Henderson, who frankly before Scoot Henderson got hurt was very bad for Portland. So his absence was almost a blessing, but they're also without Malcolm Brogdon, a very stable, easy point guard influence, veteran point guard. He tends to hunt kind of his own action a little bit, but he kind of knows what he's doing out there. And so you're really left with the only point guards on the team being Shaedon Sharpe, who is really not a classic point guard. He's just more of the dominant ball handler of the team. Think of him as if you're unfamiliar with Shaedon Sharpe's game, he's a raw talent in his second year who really has a lot of potential and talent, but still needs to really kind of figure out how to play NBA basketball in his second season. He has 15 starts last year, averaged 10 points a game last year, has incredible, overwhelming physical skills. He played 41 minutes today. And the other ball handlers for Portland will be Skylar Mays, who for the third game in a row has 10-plus assists. So Skylar Mays has 3 starts to his name, all 3 of them in the past 3 games, and he has over 10 assists in each one of those games. So I'm sorry, he started 6 games last year for the real end of the end of the line Portland Trailblazers, if you remember those no-name teams that were going. And he actually had 5 starts for Atlanta the year before, which I do not remember, and I don't think we were supposed to remember that he had those. But for 3 games in a row, Skylar Mays has 10 assists, 10-plus assists. And then also, I take pretty good pride that I know a lot of random players in the NBA. And frankly, Jamari Bouye was a new one for me. I was unfamiliar with his game. 24 years old, out of San Francisco, the College of San Francisco. and I'm catching up on everything. He's been in the league for a minute. He played 4 games for the 2022 Miami Heat, was cut, and then made a brief appearance in 1 game for the Washington Wizards. I'm not going to bring up his whole Wikipedia now because he's just Jamari Bouye, who did not did not know about before today. But that was a brand new player for me, Jamari Bouye. So you're dealing with a Portland backcourt that was just sorely lacking actual ball handling and people who could dribble the basketball with actual verve, who could run an offense. And so as the Jazz, this should have been a trouncing, and it was. It got a little sketchy at points, which I thought was uncomfortable. The Blazers did get within a couple points in the third quarter, but the Jazz slowly pulled away, and then the fourth quarter was really no contest as the Jazz continued to overwhelm Portland. Portland did have some good players play, though. Like, you have DeAndre Ayton starting, who, of course, Craig Bolerjack mentions early in the game that DeAndre Ayton is working on a 17-game streak of not scoring 20-plus points. And what does he do? As soon as you say that against the Jazz, he's going to score 20-plus points. So DeAndre Ayton had 22 and 10. Talk about his game in a minute. I wasn't impressed by Ayton. I think he very easily could have not hit that 20-point mark. Jeremy Grant was terrific for Portland. He had 26 and 2. The minutes leader, as I mentioned, was Shaedon Sharpe, but he finished 4 of 16 from the field today. He was a minus 10 for Portland. He really struggled out there. But frankly, the wheels really fell off for Portland whenever Jamari Bouye was in the game. And I feel bad for the guy. You're trying to establish any sort of NBA credit to say, like, hey, keep me on a roster. I can play point guard. That's who you want me out there. But Bouye is 17 minutes, 0 of 5, 4 turnovers, team low minus 17. And frankly, whenever he was out there, the Jazz guards hunted him absolutely tremendously hunted him, and he wasn't good on defense either. So we'll see if they need to adjust that going forward. I don't think Chris Murray is a great ball handler. He's their first-round rookie. They also have another mid-second round pick in Ryan Repair. He played for New Zealand. He's a French rookie who actually was on the roster today. He is a guard who has a very wide variety of skill set. In any event, this Blazers team really feels like the absolute total dump garbage of versions of the Blazers the Jazz could have possibly played against, and the Jazz roll to a 16-point victory. So, that is the introductory summary. A lot about the Blazers, just because I wanted to tell you who the hell were we playing today. Take a sip of this 14% beer we got on today. Didn't quite get off all the foil there. This is absolutely delicious. We drink 14% beers on Tuesdays. But the Jazz are 2-0 in the NBA Cup. Obviously, they played the two weaker teams in their little group with the Blazers and Memphis. But now the Jazz have a little extra verve going into the next NBA Cup games. Maybe we'll get Walker Kessler back for the next one, and all of a sudden that Suns game becomes a little bit more competitive. We'll see. On the Jazz front, we had Keontae George's third start in a row, and he did not disappoint once again. A lot of people are fretting about his shot today. He actually did finish quite well. He finished 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3, but he was struggling from the field early. But he still remains a confident, steady, easy presence at point guard, which just was wildly not in a scouting report at all coming out of college. When Utah drafted Keontae George, the best case scenario was, well, there's our Jordan Clarkson replacement. Ball handling guard who can make a lot of difficult shots, and maybe the defense will come around, maybe it won't. But he's going to be a guy. He'll be a guy in the NBA for 8 to 12 years getting buckets. And maybe his highest upside is a super bucket getter like CJ McCollum, right? Where that's kind of his calling card and not really a distributing point guard. More needs to be done to research into Keontae George and his background and how it is that from the jump, and I'm talking like both Utah and Las Vegas Summer League, yes, he was scoring a lot, but it jumped out right away that he had so much control over his speed, right? He is the inverse of a Colin Sexton, where he really does oscillate his speed between up and down, and he can take it slow and manipulates the way he manipulates the defense with his speed changes is really, really, really impressive. And so he ends up having 15 points and 7 assists, 2 turnovers. He was only credited with 1 until late in the game. So he has 4 turnovers. Just 4 turnovers in these 3 starts, which is incredible for a guy playing. He had 26 minutes today. He's playing this many minutes, holding the ball this much. He's not just standing in the corner. He's not just like a rookie way station like Ochai Agbaji was at times last year. This was a guy who he has the ball almost every single possession that he's out there. Not every possession. I mean, he does start with Jordan Clarkson, who's going to command a lot of his own possessions. But Keontae George is not a way station out there, and he's controlling the ball and only having 2 turnovers today, 2 fouls. It makes sense. Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson are also it's very apparent that they are having a much easier time out there playing basketball with Keontae George rather than Talen Horton-Tucker. By the way, Chris Dunn did not see minutes today until garbage time. But Chris Dunn, no minutes today. This was a 9-man rotation with the 9th man being Simone Fontecchio, who played 16 minutes today. And the Jazz were very, very small for a lot of this, so it's not even you could find a way for Chris Dunn to get on the floor. But it was interesting that Will Hardy said, I have to stop finding minutes for all of these guys. The worst guy is going to be Chris Dunn. He's not going to see the floor. But I just remain wildly impressed for the 3rd night in a row. Also, Keontae George hits the over on assists. His over-under for assists was 6.5 today. He has 7 assists today, so that remains just an absolute slam dunk of a bet. You think 7 is close to 6.5. Well, folks who watch the game today will know, Keontae George had a few, I would say 5 or 6 that I could count, amazing passes to wide open players on either interior scores or perimeter shots that rimmed in and out, or they were bunnies that missed. And this happens to every point guard. Like, not every great pass is going to lead to a bucket, even if they're wide open. But if it felt inordinately unlucky, so he easily could have got 8, 9, 10 assists. 4 rebounds. Defense was adequate, but against this Portland backcourt that was full of garbage, I don't think you can take away much defensively from the Jazz today. Holding Portland to 99 points, which is good, but you're really playing a team with, not only are they without good ball handling, but they really didn't have any good shooting on the floor at all times either. You had Duop Reith, an Australian journeyman center, jacking up 3 threes today. He went 0 of 3 from 3. Skylar Mays, 0 of 1 from 3. Toumani Camara, rookie second rounder who they got in the Phoenix trade with the Yusuf Nurkic trade. He went 2 of 4 from 3 today. But otherwise you got Bouye went 0 of 2. Thibault, he went 2 of Australian countrymate, 0 of 2. Jabari Walker went 2 of 3 today, but all 3 of his 3-point attempts were very heavily contested. And the Jazz ultimately hold Portland to 11 of 35 from 3. So it can't really take too much away from Keontae George's defense. Markkanen, 21-9, healthy rebounding. Loved what he was doing on the rebounding front today. He's always making very contested rebounds, especially when Walker Kessler is not in the game, which I think is healthy. It's good. It's positive. Love seeing the rebounding. Struggled with this 3-point shot today on a lot of wide open attempts. I was mentioning Keontae George making a lot of fantastic passes that weren't going in. Markkanen 2 of 9 from 3 today. A lot of those assists could have been Markkanen 3-point shots. A lot of them could have been. So, defense was fine, but again, he was playing against limited opponents. He was playing against DeAndre Ayton for a lot of it. And I really felt that the scouting report on Ayton wasn't quite great, and I'm not sure. I don't know whether to blame Markkanen for this or the scouting report, but Ayton does not get physical in the post, on the pick and roll, whatever it has you. Ayton wants to get to a fadeaway hook shot, or he wants to shoot a mid-range jumper, and the Jazz were playing him like somebody who wants to get into your teeth and get on top of the rim, and Markkanen included, which is why I'm bringing him up now. and that's just not his game at all. So I thought Markkanen played very solid defense, but I really struggled with how he was defending DeAndre Ayton at points. John Collins also deserves some of that blame. So in general, I thought we also saw. I was catching up with the game live and trying to catch up with it, but I wasn't sure why the Jazz were not going to Lauri Markkanen when Skylar Mays, who is all of 6'1", guarding him towards the end of the game. That really didn't make a lot of sense to me, why we weren't trying to run more things through Lauri. And it wasn't like, Skylar Mays was ending up on Lauri after a switch. This was a situation where it was just like they lined up in defense and they said, Skylar Mays, you point guard Skylar Mays are guarding Lauri Markkanen. And I think the point was that if I was to be charitable about that, it's Lauri is going to hang out around the perimeter, maybe try to hunt some three-point shots, and we need somebody who can get around screens a little bit faster and guard him on that front. I don't know, man. I felt like we could have gone to Lauri more late, but it ultimately didn't matter because Jordan Clarkson, the man, the myth, the legend, Jordan Clarkson, the number one purveyor of the purple. He's been tweeting a lot about the purple and how much he loves it. He was terrific today. I think Jordan Clarkson thrives when he's playing an undermanned backcourt. Whenever Jordan Clarkson is playing scrubs or underperforming backcourt players who don't play a lot of NBA minutes, that's when you really see Jordan Clarkson shine because he's really good at using his length and his guile to get really easy shots. And so you look at his field goal percentage and you're like, wow, 13 of 19 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3, 3 assists, 1 turnover. Wow, he must have played really under control today. It was frankly really easy to play in control when he is really just manipulating the hell out of Skylar Mays and Jamari Bouye. He had them on a string and can do whatever he wanted getting into the paint. And frankly, he's missed a lot of easy shots in the beginning portion of the season too. So I think he's actually better than what you would think. But today it was just no contest for the Portland defense against Jordan Clarkson. I think Jordan Clarkson was absolutely terrific. But he was playing a defense that just could not handle what he had. John Collins was trying to do his best competition with DeAndre Ayton for who could make the most mid-range two-pointers. He was a frustrating watch offensively at times. He went 6 of 16 today, 2 of 5 from 3. Defense, he was playing at times as the only center on the court. We started John Collins and Lauri Markkanen. I think you have to charitably call Markkanen the center in that lineup, not John Collins, especially because Markkanen was matched up against DeAndre Ayton. But at times, John Collins was the only center out there, and the defense really, really, really suffered, I felt, when he was the only big man out there. He was playing at center at times with Kelly Olynyk at the 4. Kelly Olynyk, by the way, terrific. We'll talk about him in a moment. Watching from afar, I've always kind of wondered, why can't John Collins play center more, right? When he was in Atlanta, he's this power forward center type. You're watching him. He jumps out of the gym. He's got the height, 6'11". He's skinny, but like if you're playing a small lineup, he's a good enough rebounder. He can block shots a little bit, but getting super muscled out for defensive rebounds at times. He did it for offensive rebounds today, which were kind of chance at times, but he's got a great energy to him. He does fight really hard. But the likes of Jabari Walker and Tumani Kamara were beating him pretty physically, and Jeremy Grant for sure. At times, I should say, not for sure. At times, Jeremy Grant was among the folks who just had a little bit more beef and physicality to them on some of this. On the scoring front, so when John Collins is going up for shots in the interior, he's really just kind of getting bodied around a little bit. He's not finding that space that makes him so threatening both vertically and from the perimeter. And he's shooting a lot of these shitty mid-range shots that a lot of those didn't go in where they were going in for DeAndre Ayton. And I did criticize our defense on DeAndre Ayton earlier, but if a guy's hitting 18-foot 2-pointers on you, it's not the end of the world, and you can kind of survive with that. And I just didn't like John Collins' shot selection today. 16 shots for him. That's a third. Clarkson has 19, Markin has 18, and John Collins having 16 shots today just doesn't sit well with me. And I know Keontae is really trying to find out his rhythm and his range and what he's capable of doing, what he's not capable of doing. But Keontae George, as the starting point guard, is really focusing on the passing and not really finding his own shot. And so you end up with Keontae George 4 of 9 today, 9 shot attempts versus 16, and 7 of those 9 attempts are from 3. So Keontae George, and by the way, George was 5 of 5 from the free throw line. He drew a foul on a 3-point shot, and he also got fouled on the interior on a drive. So Keontae goes 2 of 2 from 2-point range, including one beautiful little deep floater that was just wide open. He really figured out how to probe the defense and get a wide open shot. I think that's going to be there for him all the time as he figures out how to run this pick and roll game. And I can quibble about a shot selection here, shot selection there. 3 or 4 shot attempts going one guy versus another. But 16 shots for John Collins when a lot of them are just not the kind of shots you want, right? So of those 16 shot attempts, 5 of them are 3-pointers. He goes 2 of 5 from 3 today. He hit 2 threes in a row, one from the corner, one from the wing, one play after another. It looked great, looked in rhythm. Love those. If John Collins is shooting 16 shots, I want those directly at the rim or on the perimeter. And I know he can hit and like the occasional baseline jumper, right? Like he's got a good baseline game. You can't tell everyone it's 3 points or rim shots or nothing. That's not how basketball works in reality. I'm not expecting it to. But looking at his shot chart today, I think he did have 5 or 6 shots like that were just like early shot clock contested mid-range shots against DeAndre, and didn't love to see that. 3 blocks for him today, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. I'm criticizing him a little bit too much. I just felt like against this undermanned Portland team, this was a team that John Collins could overwhelm, and he just didn't. Like he was solid. He didn't blow the doors off. We've yet to see an explosive, 26-point John Collins game where he's hit 3 threes and he's dunked all over the fucking team 6 times. Right? We haven't really seen that yet, but his energy has matched it. He's got great energy, and he had great energy towards the end. Kelly Olynyk had a really funny game, but just like Jordan Clarkson, if you put Kelly Olynyk against bad players, he's going to beat you each and every time down the court. He's got the guile. He's got the physicality. He's not Kelly Olynyk from 10 years ago. He has real beef and physicality to him if it isn't like actual rim protection. So if you're putting him up against the likes of Duop Reith and Jabari Walker and Tumani Kamara, he's going to figure out how to probe the defense. Jazz had a ton of steals today. Olynyk was a big part of that. I thought he got deflections, and he had 1 credited steal, but a lot of his deflections led to steals by other players like Clarkson, who had 2. Keontae George has 1. Taylor Horton-Tucker credited with 1, but I feel like Horton-Tucker should also been credited with more. Sexton had 2. Guys, 11 steals for Utah off 17 turnovers for Portland. That ratio is actually pretty underrated in my opinion. So we talk about turnovers a lot. Anything over 16 or 15 is pretty bad. 15's acceptable, but it's still pretty bad. You want to be around 12. And the ratio of how many of those turnovers are actual steals by the defense is really important. And this is a big problem under Quinn Snyder's teams, is that they never, ever, ever got steals. They were one of the lowest rates in the entire league at securing live ball turnovers that turned into fast breaks. And that's what a live steal is. It turns into a fast break. And, oh my God, how many times have we seen a Quinn Snyder Jazz team get on a fast break and bork a layup? It was so frustrating. Over and over and over again. I felt like it was almost because they just didn't have enough practice with it. you ended up with guys trying to run a fast break, and it's their first fast break of the game in the late third quarter. And they would find some way to fuck it up all the time. And my main criticism of that is if you have bad defenders at the point of attack, like Jordan Clarkson and Donovan Mitchell, and I hate to say it at the time, Mike Conley, gamble more. If you're going to let the guy get by you anyways, do weird gambles. You got Rudy Gobert behind you. Make weird gambles. And so I like seeing, in the past 2 games especially, I think we've seen Jordan Clarkson have a little bit more license for that. Not necessarily on the ball, but Jordan Clarkson does clearly have a license to read what the offense is trying to do, and if you feel like you can just dive and grab a ball then and create a live ball turnover, that's great. And for the first time in what feels like forever, I feel like when I watch Jazz fast breaks, they're not going to die. John Collins is a big part of that, but Keontae George is a big part of that. Colin Sexton is a big part of that. Love a good Colin Sexton fast break. I have the same issues with Colin Sexton as everybody else. But him on a fast break is pretty unstoppable. I'm reading Colin Sexton's line for the first time now, and I liked his game today. There same glaring issues as always. He got stuck and he turned the ball over when he shouldn't because he was being too selfish. But I was surprised to see he was only 1 of 5 from 3 today. I thought he had a lot more scoring juice than that. 13.7 assists for Sexton today, team high, plus 14. Obviously, a lot of that is coming when he's on the court. And you get Jamari Bouye for the Blazers. He's a team low, minus 17. I think Sexton and Talen Horton-Tucker really did a great job of abusing a very poor Portland. Every Jazz backcourt player gets their flowers today. Even Horton-Tucker, I felt like, played within himself. Whenever you're getting 21 minutes out of Horton-Tucker and he has 5 shot attempts, I think that's a good day for Horton-Tucker. 3 assists, 2 turnovers. You want that to be a little better, but his defense, especially on Jeremy Grant, I've always said Talen Horton-Tucker is a good wing defender. That's his best skill, wing defense. But if he's taking 5 shot attempts, that means he's really playing within himself and isn't demanding the ball over and over and over again. When you say Talen Horton-Tucker starting point guard, he kind of gets that in his head. He ends up being a quite unwatchable player. So these fast breaks for Utah were prevalent today. Those 11, that ratio of you look at the opponent's turnovers and you want to look and see, well, how many of those turn into steals? How many of those were live ball steals? Because those create fast breaks, which create easy points. And a lot of times Utah has really struggled with that over the past 7-8 years, is getting those live ball steals. It just doesn't happen that often. So, that's the Jazz win today. By the way, if this is the first time you're tuning in, this is the Jazz Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. I will always take questions, talk about the Jazz, talk about the NBA. I was thinking about checking out this Gobert Draymond incident. We'll catch that a little later. But I think we're going to call it for today. This is a Tuesday night. I got a 14% beer to take a drink at. And watch the end of this Clippers-Denver game and the end of this Minnesota-Golden State game that I think has relevant is relevant for NBA Cup. Getting back into the swing of things this season. We had a few East Coast games that I couldn't do a live postcast for, but I'm really happy to be back doing this, recapping the game, having a beer, seeing who we're playing. We've done a couple. We've got Memphis and we've got Portland. We've got a couple of Jazz victories that we've done postcasts for here at Salt City Hoops. I'll be doing this again probably Friday night for the Suns game. So, Salt City Hoops live postcast and beer. My name is Mark. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to me talk about the game today, some opinions I have. I got a lot more where that's coming from. I'll save them for Friday. Until then, you have a great night. My name is Mark. Follow us at Salt City Hoops. Follow me at Mark Pereira. We're everywhere. Love having you here. Have a great night.